Thank you very much for listening to this unusual addition to the WhatsApp messages on Sunday morning. But I just wanted to share a quick thought on the coming holiday festival of Pesach, and especially relevant to Seder night. And we dedicate this learning to the safety and success of all of the leaders, soldiers in the IDF and the American Armed Forces as they continue their brave fight against evil. And I'm calling this deep clean, deep freedom. And it's ironical in a way that I've come across this concept of depth, of deep, recently as deep fake. This is the offering that the world is currently bringing to us, that when one looks at something or hears something, then you must suspect actually whether this is a very convincing fake image, because the skills, the technology, whatever it is, have become so advanced that we have no idea what we're looking at, whether it is the truth or is whether it is what it seems or not. And so, even more necessary or eternally necessary, we have the values of the Torah, and very specifically the concepts and the practices of the holiday of Pesach. And I feel that there's the deep clean, which takes place on the physical level, and there's often always a connection, a parallel between physical and spiritual. And just as we are cleaning our homes physically, we are also invited, encouraged, required to think about ourselves as the spiritual parallel, and really clean ourselves of whatever negative thoughts and practices and actions are creep into our daily lives. And then this concept of deep freedom. And again, the physical manifestation, the representation, is the actual Yetzias Mitzrayim, the exodus from Egypt, where we as a nation miraculously walked out of the land of Egypt, where one slave had never managed to escape. It was so watertight, and there were no escapes, whether because people were just in their slave mentality or whether because there were guards patrolling, and an entire nation walks free. And this is the very deep freedom. And if we look at what's going on today, that we see in the land of Israel under fire, and people having to run into their safe rooms sometimes at a moment's notice. How can we celebrate our festival of freedom in this way? And even in the diaspora, where Jewish communities are under threat, under attack, in a way that for many decades we haven't had to experience these levels. So again, looking at Pesach, and specifically looking at a concept that was brought to us by the Maharal of Prague. And the Maharal of Prague was a very famous Rabbi Yehuda Loewy, who lived in Prague. And it is particularly appropriate that we talk about him and learn one of his ideas. There are many legends about him. He's very famously associated with the creation of the golem, which was a humanoid made of clay that helped the Jewish community at a time. He was born, the actual year of his birth is unconfirmed, around 1512, that time. But the Hebrew date of his birth is confirmed, and that is the 15th of Nisan, which was Seder night. And the legend has it that he already saved the Jewish community at the time from one of these blood libels which were circulating, that Jewish people killed Christian children so that they could use their blood to make matzahs. And because the midwife, because the Maharal's mother went into labor, the midwife was called. In so doing, they discovered a non-Jewish man coming in with a sack, and that sack contained the body of a Christian child. And this was going to be the blood libel in the making. And this how primitive and ridiculous does that sound to our ears today, that people should be so ignorant of who we are and what the recipe for matzahs is, that they should accuse us of murdering Christian children and using their blood to make matzahs. And I'm struck by how many blood libels, one most recently in the United Kingdom, where there's an exhibition in Margate in Kent with accusing Israel of genocide, depicting, it's an art gallery depicting soldiers of the IDF eating Palestinian children with their teeth dripping in blood. So how is it, and how can we deal with it? So the Maharal, with his during his life, starting with his birth, how he managed to fend off these blood libels. And I think that as with everything, it's how we conceptualize what's going on, and this idea of being free even when one is in very constrained circumstances. We can get it from the Maharal's understanding of matzah. Now, matzah is often referred to as the bread of poverty, and this is, according to many opinions, the bread that we ate in Egypt because we were impoverished slaves. But the Maharal goes in a slightly different direction, and he looks at, firstly, the components of matzah. The components of matzah are flour and water and absolutely nothing else. And he also looks at the fact, and this is a verse that we say in the Haggadah, in one of the three crucial headlines that we are supposed to mention, that are really make the fundamental point of the Haggadah. About those are Pesach, Matzah, and Maror. But if we look at the section on Matzah, it says, Matzah zu she'anu ochlim al shumma. This matzah that we eat, for what purpose? For what reason? Al shum shelo hispik b'tzeikom shel avosenu lahachmitz. Because the dough of our fathers did not have the time to leaven, and they had to leave in a hurry. So these two elements of matzah, the basic ingredients and nothing else, and the fact that the process is expedited. It is not the normal process of leavening, which will give us lovely soft bread, which is absolutely fine for the rest of the year, but not on Pesach. And the Maharal is explaining that just like a person who is impoverished, he has nothing extra. He has, and in a physical world, that is a disadvantage. It's certainly seen as a disadvantage. But actually, when we are only in possession of the very basic things that we need, that is, at this point, at the point of our becoming a nation, that is true freedom. And although, because in the physical world we are accustomed to thinking of poverty in a very negative way, understandably, when we understand that in a transcendent world, in the world of the spirit, to be unencumbered, to just have what you need, is actually liberating, is the path to freedom in this situation, which represents the crux of our becoming a nation. And I think that if we go forward, you can then view somebody who has many possessions as actually being bogged down, as being weighed down, as being further from the truth than somebody who is in a much more simple environment and only having what they need and actually being happy with that. And when we are able to think of that in our head, and we are able, whether we are in a mamad, whether we are round a table with our family without the threat of sirens and missiles and things like that, the fact that we can go back to our basic essence and use that as a way of connecting with Hashem, as a way of connecting with our story. And as we say the words of the Haggadah, those people who did not live through the Second World War, and as that generation is passing on, and many people alive today will only know about the intense persecution that Jewish people had to endure during the war years, the Second World War years. Yet we see a resurgence. We see a resurgence, perhaps not on the levels, but there's a feeling. There's a feeling of unease. There's a feeling of the old hatred beginning to lift its head again. And so when we look at our history, we see the message that although the matzah is the message of alacrity, of speed, and when we haven't got time to let the dough ferment, yet we are taking that, and we know that just as Hashem rescues us from Mitzrayim, Hashem rescues us as a nation from every persecution that we have endured since that time. Being able to tune in, seeing the wisdom of the Maharal, remembering the circumstances of the Maharal's birth and his life, and using that to enable us to experience the true freedom and gift of Pesach. And I pray that everybody is blessed with a very meaningful Pesach, where they are able, on the deepest level, to connect to these ideas of deep clean and deep freedom, and let the light of this experience, the light of this mindset, illuminate all the dark places in the world. Wishing everybody chag, kasher, vesameach, and thank you for listening.